we'll get started. Hello, my name is Kristen Mann, and I'm a product manager here at Meta. Previously, I was a game developer. I had the opportunity to work on some great games with some great studios like Alan Wake at Xbox, Shadow of Mordor at Monolith, and Guild Wars 2 at ArenaNet, if you all know those games. Today I work on Horizon, working in what I consider to be the most exciting space in Horizon, which of course is mobile and mobile development and building the future of our mobile experience with the mobile Horizon app. So I'm excited to talk to you about a few things today. One, which is talk about how we've been evolving the Meta Horizon app. You may have noticed some changes have come to the Meta Horizon app in the past few months. Two, talk a little bit about what that means for all of you in this room, the content creators. And three, bring on my friend Adam Oliver up from Unit 2 Games, who's going to talk a little bit about how he and the team approached building Kaiju City Showdown, which was one of the first worlds built with mobile in mind from the start. So where do we think about mobile in context of Horizon? Obviously, with Horizon, we are building the next generation immersive social platform. And that platform has a core foundation that includes things like the Meta Horizon OS and also includes the Meta Horizon app. And that core foundation supports ways for people to navigate the experience, tools to find and connect with others, and helps people discover the next great thing that they want to do in Horizon. And, of course, also includes the amazing content built by everyone in this room. Specifically, what we're looking to do with mobile is really give the opportunity for everyone to experience Horizon, whether they have a headset or not. Pretty simple stuff. So the last 6 months, the app now looks like this. We've made some changes. We took the MetaQuest app that everyone knows and loves, and we made it the entry point into Horizon, and then named it Meta Horizon. Very clever. For years, the MetaQuest app, which for those that remember, before that it was the Oculus app, has been a core part of how people connect with their headset, how they set up their headset, how they remotely install apps, etc. Now we've made it so that you can do even more. You can explore worlds and jump directly into those worlds. You can play with friends, you can meet new people, and you can stay up to date when you're away from your headset. And we've made it easier to socialize and express, starting with how you do that in Horizon, which is, of course, your avatar. And we've got these nice new avatars for you all. Heard a lot about that in the past few days. We have a dedicated avatar tab that makes it easy to customize and express your mood. You can even jump directly into Horizon Worlds, complete quests, and earn new avatar items, styles, and emotes. And finally, all the stuff that I talked about that the Oculus app and the MetaQuest app enabled, you can still do that today. You can set up and manage your headset. You can easily browse the library to find your next great world, game, app experience, and you can chat and socialize with your friends. And just want to say, this is just the beginning. We're going to continue and invest in the app as the center for how you express yourself, how you play and progress, and how you hang out in Horizon. And just to bring it all the way back, again, it really comes down to giving everyone the opportunity to experience Horizon, whether or not you own a headset, whether your headset is charged and ready to go, or whether you can be in a fully immersive environment, just that ease of access for everyone to experience. So that's a lot about how people will experience Horizon and the Meta Horizon app. I think a better question probably and more top of mind for everybody in this room is, what does this mean for me? We recognize, and again, the promise of mobile is in that reach. It's in new audiences. It's in that ability to reach out to maybe people that haven't experienced your worlds or your creations before today. And we want to give you that reach. So for worlds that are mobile optimized and playable, we have new discovery services that put your worlds front and center. People can easily discover your worlds and jump right in straight from their phone. We've added a jump back in shelf, which you can see here. That's a list of the worlds you have jumped in previously, which allows people to jump right in from that session that they had on their headset and continue it on their phone. We've also added the ability to search for worlds. Previously, you could only search for Horizon worlds, and then you had to figure out a way to get into a specific world from there. Now you can search directly for whatever world you are interested in, and people can jump into those specific worlds. And we're only going to continue to improve on this experience. We're going to continue to optimize the Worlds for You shelf and add new surfaces that put great content front and center in the app. Maybe I can get a show of hands. How many people in this room have created worlds? Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Wait, no, keep your hand up if your world has been made mobile optimized or playable. Oh, I love to see it. For those that haven't or don't have a world, this is a great QR code. It has a great place to start. If you have a world that isn't mobile optimized and playable, the best thing you can do is make that world mobile optimized and playable, because that will give you access to all these great discovery and reach options that I just talked about. The next best thing after that is really start to consider how your world translates to mobile. For example, one of the things that we see with mobile, of course, is that people generally have shorter sessions on mobile. It means, they're picking up their phone between doing other things. So think about, can a person progress your world in a short amount of time? Do they feel like they can achieve something in that short session? Another thing to think about is how the controls feel. So when you are navigating with your thumbs, which is a little awkward in sort of that dual stick motion, does your world translate well to that? Or does it have complex controls that maybe is hard to do with, the thumb dual stick? So, by the way, this is a great segue to bring on Adam, but maybe before I do that, I will just finish up here and say that this is just the beginning. We are just starting this mobile journey, and I have a feeling that for those of you in this room that were there on Tuesday at the MHCP stuff, you heard a lot about mobile. This is just the start. We want to invite you all on to join us in this journey. We can't do it alone. Your worlds and your apps and games are what makes Horizon special and is what is going to make this ecosystem flourish, and we want you all to join us. So with that, I'll bring on Adam Oliver. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Kristen.
Adam is a technical game designer at Unit 2. Oh, and I think we lost. Did we lose audio? And was instrumental in building Kaiju City Showdown. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, Kristen.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my job, essentially, the way I see it, is to build content in Horizon Worlds that breaks new ground and pushes the boundaries in terms of what can be done by creators in Horizon. I'll build stuff, I'll try and push the boundaries forwards, but ultimately I'm just laying the groundwork, hopefully, so that you guys are people here in our fantastic Meta Horizon Creator Program community, can have the chance to go ahead and build even more incredible experiences than what I've helped to enable. So as a technical game designer in Unit 2 Games, which is a Meta studio, my job is to help the team essentially figure out what it is that we want to push forwards next, whether that's mobile, asymmetrical play, and kind of work on the content that enables that, and also feed back to the creation teams so that we build out the tooling in the most effective way possible for you guys to then take that on board and go crazy with it and do much, much more than what we've already shown. Particularly when it comes to making worlds enabled for mobile, that's something our studio is specializing in. So we're always trying to push forward the mobile creation tools and make it as easy as possible for you guys to bring your worlds across to mobile, supporting new mechanics and even new kind of gameplay possibilities as well.
Tell me, Adam, a little bit about Kaiju City Showdown. Obviously, I've spent a few hours in it, but for those that haven't, tell us about the game.
First of all, can I get a quick show of hands for anyone that's played Kaiju City Showdown? Wow, that's amazing. So for those of you who don't know, Kaiju City Showdown, this game right here, is an asymmetrical game for both VR and mobile players. You have one player who takes on the role of the giant kaiju monster with laser eyes and the ability to smash up a city. This is a VR player's role, and they're a 10 times scale player dressed like this, whose job is essentially to bring down the city, smashing up key buildings around different locations and flatten the city. And then you've got between 1 and 4 Sky Rangers. These are the defenders of the city. And this role is for both mobile and VR players. They have jetpacks, they have laser weapons, and they need to kill the kaiju before time runs out, essentially. So Horizon Worlds launched for web and mobile in 2023. And as a game studio, we saw massive opportunity here, not just for a much wider potential audience, but also for new types of gameplay and to just lean into the different device capabilities that we now had. We decided that building an asymmetrical game was actually the best way to do this, to build a role specifically that embraces the strengths of mobile and build a role that embraces the strengths of VR and bring those into a game experience together, thinking about both devices from the start. So essentially, we try to not just make a game that we then kind of port the mechanics over, but we make something that feels cohesive and gives players a feeling that's almost like a native game experience for both device types.
Tell me a little bit about how you approached thinking about mobile with Kaiju.
I think the main thing that really helped us with Kaiju was thinking about all the platforms we're going to be playing on early and often, right through the development cycle, right from the start of the design. We knew we wanted an asymmetrical game. Here's a baby picture of Kaiju, by the way, just a month in. So thinking about the VR players and the mobile players and regularly playtesting with both roles so that we can see how it feels. By thinking about mobile early and often in your development, it gives you much more flexibility to think about how those devices are going to interact with mechanics in your game. Rather than having a mechanic that works on VR and you then just need to make it work on mobile, you can actually think of what the relative strengths of mobile are and play into those as well and make the experience feel like it was built for both devices. Now, mobile obviously comes with a set of problems that are different to the problems in VR. You've got much less precise controls. You've only got your 2 little thumbs to control stuff on quite a small screen. The screen size is obviously very important, and it's really crucial to think about your information density that you're presenting to players. Simplicity in like your user interface and what they see in the game is really critical. The lack of controls that you have available compared to touch controllers as well, where you've got a number of like buttons and you've got kind of the freedom of movement. You need to think about where you could have simpler controls that translate well to just 2 inputs essentially. And you need to consider as well that mobile players are more likely to have their audio off or possibly not be using voice chat, whereas it's much more natural to have those features enabled on a VR headset. Luckily, at this point, mobile gaming is obviously a very mature field. There's millions of games to look at out there for inspiration of how to overcome some of these common problems, how to find accessibility routes around things like people not using their audio. And at Unit 2 Games, we're trying to build the tooling that will enable you guys to find this inspiration in other games and apply it to your Horizon worlds.
So that's a lot about the challenges of building for mobile. Talk a little bit about the advantages you found in building for mobile.
Exactly. Like I said, we need to not only overcome the obstacles, but we need to play into the strengths of what we're building for as well. So when we're building for mobile, we're thinking about the fact that this is a platform where it's much, much easier for people to join your game. That's actually a blessing and a curse. You can get people into your sessions really easily. It's amazing for discoverability, but you need to remember that they might be lower intent users as well. So for those users, it's really crucial that you hook them very, very quickly in the action of your game. Don't give them long tutorials that will kind of make them lose interest. But because it's so easy to hop in, you'll find that people will actually want to play more regularly, perhaps in shorter sessions. So you can include retention mechanics in your game, like daily check-in loops that encourage players to come back even when they're away from their headsets. Mobile and flat screens in general also give you more control over the player movement and over the camera. In VR, you're naturally always fixed into a first-person camera, and you can't kind of forcefully move the player without encountering motion sickness problems. Whereas when you're over on mobile, you have the freedom to push players around, to grab them if you're the kaiju, which is always fun. And you can play with the camera first, third person. You can go to even a side-scrolling camera. You can move to a fixed camera and make use of the touchscreen interface, for example, to solve like a puzzle mini-game. So with Kaiju, we made a role for the Kaiju player that suits the strengths of the VR device. The Kaiju player wants to be able to hit things, they want to throw cars at their friends, as everyone wants to do, and they want to feel that massive sense of scale of being in the city. And we decided early on that this was really best suited for the VR form factor. And then we suited the Skyranger role mostly for mobile players, thinking about the fact that there's a wider audience, it's very easy to drop in, so we throw Skyranger straight into the gameplay, and we allow them to play very short sessions as well, and we let you get grabbed by the kaiju. And by thinking about both of those and bringing them together, we made a cohesive game experience.
Let's talk about tooling, which is everybody's favorite topic. How did you find the tooling in building for cross screens versus VR?
I think with Horizon Worlds, it's actually not too difficult, and it's not too different between the two devices in terms of tooling. Obviously, Horizon gives you the option of both the VR editor and the desktop editor, and that's great for being able to quickly iterate and preview your game as it should feel on both devices. When it comes to mobile, previewing in the editor actually already feels very similar to the right experience, so it's much quicker to iterate there for a mobile game. And we've even added extra controls recently to, for example, simulate a smaller screen size, overlay the mobile controls and UI onto the screen so that you can find the safe zones and know where you can put your game information as well. And we've given extra tooling over time as a studio. So we started out by adapting Super Rumble from VR to mobile, and in doing so we added extra controls for mobile, things like playing death and respawn animations, which the VR players didn't need. Being able to make a trigger interactable on 2D so that buttons work just as well as they do in VR. And then through building Kaiju, we enabled even more of those kind of features. Things like attaching your UI to your screen space rather than a VR kind of HUD UI. And we added TypeScript APIs. You can set grips on players, so when they're holding a gun, it actually looks like they're holding it. You can play animations in those grips, like fire and reload. And there's a TypeScript API to get device type. So if you do want to lean into a particular device and maybe do something different for that device, you can just get a player's device type and adjust your code path following that. For example, in Kaiju, we give mobile players a little bit of aim assistance when they're firing the laser at the kaiju because they have less precise controls than web and VR players.
So that was about the tech. Tell me about how you approach the game design on mobile.
So I think the critical way that I like to think about designing a mechanic for both platforms is that you've essentially got three choices with that mechanic, which I will call emulate, adapt, or split. When you emulate a mechanic, you look at the mechanic on one platform and you go, well, that is going to translate perfectly well to the other. For example, pressing a button to start the round on VR, it's going to work exactly the same on mobile, just enable the trigger to be interactable. When you adapt a mechanic, it's where you realize that you can change the mechanic for all players to suit all devices better. And a great example of this in Kaiju is with the jetpack mechanic for the Skyrangers. Originally, when we were playing with this on the desktop editor, we made it quite complicated. You had to hold buttons to fly up, hold a different button to fly down. If you let go, you'd fall. It was kind of way too much when we tried to preview on mobile. So we tried to prototype a bunch of different solutions to this. We play tested lots of things, and we came down on a solution where you can press a single button and just tap it. It will put you into a jetpack hover mode. You fly wherever you look. You tap it again and you'll come down to land, or you just move towards the ground and you'll land automatically. And with that simplicity and with the jetpack there, we even took away the jump button. There's no jumping in Kaiju because you don't need it. And simple is almost always better when it comes to mobile gaming. Finally, the option is to split a mechanic, which is where you realize that the mechanic isn't going to translate well to the other device, and you need to essentially bifurcate. You need to have a different experience per device. A really obvious example in Kaiju is that we don't let you be the Kaiju on mobile. So we completely split the player experience. But there's more subtle things, like I mentioned, aim assist for the mobile players, or changing how you display certain UI elements based on whether you're a VR or a mobile player.
I love learning that there were things that you did in cross screens that then translated better to VR. That's fantastic. So now that Kaiju is live and you have it out, speaking of learnings, what are you learning now that it's in players' hands?
I think one of the top positive takeaways is that we made a hypothesis at the start of Kaiju that building an asymmetrical game that has player roles that lean into the strengths of each device would increase retention and increase player engagement. And we've absolutely seen that. It's really worked. It's really paid off. As a game designer, it kind of feels like I designed one game, but you play it in two entirely different ways, almost like it's two separate games. And by embracing mobile, you kind of open up to a wide audience that can get in easily. If they're hooked and they find the game interesting, they might then be led to go and try it on a VR device, or even the other way around. If they love your game in VR, by having a mobile experience as well, they'll probably be encouraged to pick it up more often in spaces where they couldn't use a VR headset. And we've seen that pay off in our engagement and our returning users. Of course, being a game, the novelty kind of wears off eventually, and we do see natural player fall off, and that's why the next most important thing we're doing with Kaiju is keeping regular content coming back into the game. So I think about 2 weeks ago, we just launched an update with a new city district, so players get a different experience playing through the game. It's called Chinatown. It's got unique buildings. It's really nice artwork. And literally about 5 days ago, we also launched an update with a new kaiju, a robot kaiju called Destruct, that you earn by playing as the Chaos Kaiju, as the dinosaur kaiju. And we definitely don't have plans to stop there, so keep an eye on it. We're going to be bringing more kaijus and more to the city all the time.
So we have this great audience here. If you had one piece of advice for the creators in the room for how they should think about or how they should approach building for cross screens, what would it be?
The main thing for me is to think about all of your devices early and often in your development process, right from the very start of the game design, if you can. Obviously, it's never too late to make a game work for mobile, but the best approach is to be thinking about mobile right at the start and at every point throughout, and playtesting on those devices. I think it's critical that you make playtesting a ritual in your development process. So you need to be prototyping features or conversions of mechanics between devices very, very quickly at a low cost. You need to be playtesting them with real players outside your team on all of the devices that they will actually be playing on. You need to be identifying quickly where the problems are, where the difficulties are per device, not just in general, and then iterating quickly, try and solve it for that player. Playtest again on mobile, did it work? And figuring out, and by keeping that low cost and keeping that iteration loop as tight and short as possible, you have the most chances essentially to succeed on each device type. The next best thing you can do to convert your games to mobile is to go to this QR code that's up on the screen right now, and go learn more from our resources about how to build your Horizon world for mobile.
Thank you, Adam. You really do make me miss game development when you talk about it. I cannot wait to see what the team comes up with next with Kaiju City Showdown and how you continue to evolve the mobile experience. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.